This is tape number ET52 from the library of the Howard Thurman Educational Trust. Two meditations by Howard Thurman. This is side one, entitled Response to Life.
Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. I'm continuing our thinking together on certain aspects of the 139th Psalm, and today, how precious are thy thoughts unto me, O God. How precious are thy thoughts. The verve of life abounds in all I see. The kernel of the seed holds in its place a swinging door, through which the boundless energy of living substance flows, forming itself in root and stalk, in branch and fruit. The germ in the egg awaits the fulfilling moment, a gentle tug, a brooding urge, an unhurried push to full creation, then living form of chick or bird or child. A whisper in the mind, like a voice floating in the hills, calls to itself kindred thoughts from far-off places. Ideas take shape and form, firming within their vital wall their strange insistence. They pull, they push, they drive, command, until at last they are the master in the house, and the whole course of a man's life is channeled into regions he does not know nor scarcely understand. How precious are thy thoughts unto me, O God. The response to goodness, the urge to minister, the quickened willingness to bless, the deep rejection of the evil deed revealed, the pull of the clear thought and the honest desire, an all-embracing tenderness cradling the kindly act, the far-flung hope comprising myriad strands of all man's dreaming, the hard rebuff to all that mocks and scorns, the whole surrender of the center of consent, to lose life only to find it again. How precious are thy thoughts unto me, O God. How great is the sum of them. To be able to think, excuse me, to be able to think is a miracle. Ideas, invisible things, take their shape in many ways, in many ages, many climes, and then they land in your mind. And in your mind, they began to work. grow, develop, until at last they spill out in acts and in deeds. Ideas are very strange things. They come from afar, they are born within. They take possession of the mind and order the body to behave in certain ways. Now, when an idea comes into the mind, it orders all things to be its servant, if it be a central idea, if it be what is called a hard idea. And very often we get these ideas that influence the life in ways that are not deliberate. You may remember in Goethe's Faust, when Faust is about to drink the poison potion because he feels that he has exhausted all learning. As he lifts the goblet to his lips, he hears through an open window the songs coming from a chapel hard by. These songs, or this song, this music, is like the music which crept into his mind and spirit when he was a child. He was scarcely aware of the fact that he was exposed to this early music, that it had embedded itself in his mind and spirit. But here it was, and as soon as he hears the voices singing, a whole flood of memories, of earlier experiences, everything in his past that was related in quality and tone to the insight and the impact of this early music upon him is now activated. And these things stand over against that which is working in his mind, causing him to commit suicide, and he drops the goblet and goes on with his life. How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God. What kind of thoughts, what kinds of images are you storing up in your mind? What kind of idea bank do you have? Are they ideas which have to do with the things in life that have irritated you, that have made life difficult, all the negative experiences that you have had with other human beings? Have you kept a carefully accumulated body of this kind of data, so that the things which you store up through the years are all the things that you dislike as you have lived your life? If that is the case, then it is these things that you have stored up in terms of ideas and images and pictures as you have lived through the years. It is these things that create the inner climate of your life. It is these things that provide the atmosphere through which you look out upon the world. And if this is the case, then the kind of structuring, ordering of your response to life in general is determined by the quality of these kinds of things which you have accumulated and held fast at the central place in your mind. And this means, you see, that what you think then of people, what you think of situations which you contemplate, is not just the result of the particular idea on your mind or the situation on your mind, but it is the quality of all of the atmosphere that has been generated through years of the accumulation of a certain kind of thoughts, a certain body of ideas. Now, if you have made a habit of gathering unto yourself things that upon which you may feed with meaning and significance, great ideas, great and breathless moments of beauty that have been visited upon the human scene through the gifted minds and tongues and pens of poets and dreamers and prophets, if these are the things upon which you feed, then a climate of that kind is generated, and it is through this kind of climate that you look out upon the world. This is one of the great reasons why, whether a person believes in a daily life of devotion, whether you are a person who believes in prayer as a form of religious experience and expression or not, if you want to live a full and healthy life so that your outlook will be fresh and full of the distilled wisdom of all the ages, each day of your life you will set aside some moment, some time when you will expose yourself to some of the great images, the great pictures, the great thoughts that have blessed the minds of other men. I will fly in the greatness of God as the marsh hen flies, filling all the space twixt the marsh and the skies. By so many roots as the marsh grass sends in the sod, behold, I will lay me a hold on the greatness of God. Some such ideas that, and there are many others. Gather unto yourselves those ideas that inspire, that breathe wisdom and tenderness and kindness and love, and these then will create in you a climate and an atmosphere through which you will look out upon the world and interpret the things that come into your life from day to day. How precious are thy thoughts unto me, O God. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer.
This is tape number ET52 from the library of the Howard Thurman Educational Trust. This is side 2, entitled Responsibility for Action.
Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. In the morning's mail, I received a Gaelic Blessing, which I will share with you before I begin the regular part of the program. May the roads rise with you, and the wind be always at your back, and may the Lord hold you in the hollow of his hand. This morning we come to the end of our consideration of the 139th Psalm. We are thinking together about the last stanza. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Judgment seems far removed from act and deed. Trumpets from the past sound warning notes. The day of judgment, prepare to meet thy God. Beyond the gates of modern life, ancient myths couched in dogmas old mold and rot in silent gloom. The end of time, God on his throne to judge mankind, and a man alone stands before the judgment seat. The sky, a canopy above, heavenly hosts, angels, archangels in ceaseless flight, bathed forever in eternal light, blazing forth from the throne of God. Such is the ancient myth. No man is free to live unmindful of an impending doom, or so it seems. There is a timeless warning in the far-off word. The bitter truth returns in many forms. No deed, no act stands by itself alone. In bone and blood, in nerve and cell, in all the imagery of mind, in sound of voice, in wrinkled brow, standing, sitting, waking, sleeping, laughter or tears, the imprint of thought, the registry of deed, remain for all man's days. There is a tight circle in which man moves. Nothing escapes. Soon or late, somewhere, somewhen, the doer and the deed together sit. The ancient myth renews its truth, and a man stands alone before the judgment seat. Try me, O God, and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me. The idea that life is a pilgrimage in responsibility is an old idea. The notion that to live is to be responsible is a notion that is deeply ingrained in man's experience of life. And yet, there is always the tendency to seek ever devious ways by which one may escape the responsibility for one's own action. This is elemental responsibility, this is primary responsibility, and in a sense, it is absolute responsibility. I am responsible for my own deeds, and yet there is something that is so full of awe about the fact that I'm always trying to find ways to circumvent the relentless logic of the fact. When I was a boy, I had two sisters. One was older, one was younger. I was fortunately placed because whenever I was being held accountable for something that I had done, I could always say that I did it because I came to the rescue of my little sister, and it really wasn't my fault or responsibility, but hers. Or I could say that I was acting under the influence of my older sister, and therefore it was not my responsibility, but hers. Always there is this tendency to shrink from taking responsibility for one's own actions. But it is a mark of maturity, a mark of growth, to be willing to do what, in the last analysis, one has no live option except to do, namely, to take responsibility for one's own action. Now, this is a psychological thing. That's a nice phrase to use to describe it. But it is also written in the organism. It is written in the body. The nervous system itself registers the moment-by-moment encounter of man with the living texture of his experience. For instance, if you became emotionally disturbed and you went to see a psychiatrist or an analyst, one of the things inherent in the procedures that are used is something which has to do with taking you back very slowly over the whole history of your life. Every single incident, as nearly as you are able to sense it, is reproduced because somewhere in the story of your life is the source of the thing which in the present is giving you the difficulty or the trouble. This suggests, you see, that in the unfolding of life, in the growing up of individuals, everything counts. Nothing walks with aimless feet. As Tennyson places upon the lips of Ulysses, I'm a part of all that I have met. Yet all experience is an arch where through gleams that untraveled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. This is a fact of life. And translated in terms of religious significance, it says that life is a responsibility, and that the living of life is a responsible act. It is small wonder then that a man like Conrad says it was always a serious thing to live, and to live life seriously, you see, is to live it responsibly, and this is radically different from taking life seriously. Taking life seriously may result in brooding and all kinds of internal congestions and disorder, but to live life seriously is to be involved at each critical step in the responsibility for what that step initiated in you or what that step set going in the world. Now there's still another dimension here. Man does not only live his life responsibly, not only are we responsible for our own actions, but something that is again and again overlooked, and that is that man is responsible for his reactions to life. Now this is different, you see. The first is man is responsible for his actions. He must pick up the tab for his action, or as the prose poem suggests, there comes a time when the doer and the deed together sit. Right. But there's something more. Man is responsible for his reactions to the experiences and to the events of his life. Now, it is true that again and again, a man may encounter experiences which are not responsive to his will, however good that will may be. We are always surrounded by forces that seem to be impersonal in character, forces that mold us and shape us, but are not responsive to our will, forces that do not seem to be quite sensitive enough or capable enough of taking us into account. But nevertheless, they involve us, they make their impact upon us, and we are responsible for our reactions to the events of our lives. I cannot determine what will befall me. I am a creature of life. I am a creature of my time. I am a creature of my period. I am involved in processes that do not arise within me and are not responsible to me. But nevertheless, there is a measure of autonomy that I have, a margin of integrity, and that is what I shall do with the events of my life, how I shall react to the raw materials of my experience. And as I react to them, this reaction goes into the making of my life. Search me, O God, says the psalmist, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer.